everybody. Welcome to Unnamed Podcast. It's Wednesday, March 21st. I am back in the studios, no longer broadcasting from a remote location. My name is John, and on the screen to my left, my very far left, we have DP, who is not getting paid. Dave, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be back. Real good to be back. And you know what? How many shows is this for us now? Is this our
episode number 3?
3 for us. And you know, honestly, I don't think we'd be where we are today without our fans. So I wanted to just put a shout out. And
did you put an S on that? I think it's just one fan right now.
And to my other left, coming in from places unknown, the dark nerd breaking all physics laws. Jason, welcome aboard.
All right, yeah. It's nice to be out here in the hot and sticky D.C. area.
Oh, come on. We don't want to hear about hot. We're in Arizona.
Yeah, but it's a dry heat, right? Is that what they all say?
It's what?
It's a dry heat. That's what they all say, you know.
They do, but so is the inside of my oven.
Oh.
So we have got an interesting show this evening. We're going to try and keep it light a little bit. And on that note, for keeping it light, I was thinking about some quotes to lead off, and I had one that I really liked, but I decided I was gonna power up slowly before I get to the really off the wall movies. So I'm going to go with Haywood leads the league in most offensive categories, including nose hair. When this guy sneezes, he looks like a party favor.
It's the baseball movie, Major League.
Wow. Well, I don't know. Oh. Jason, what is it?
That's exactly what it is.
Are you laughing because the quote was too easy or because it's funny?
Was I right?
Kind of both, but more.
Was I right? Was I right?
You are correct. Major League, one of my favorite movies.
I've never won anything before. Did I win? What did I win?
You won the. You're going to get a autographed copy of the home version of our game. Be sent to your house. We'll just need to check for me for $14.95 for shipping and handling.
It's the same movie with you for all that, right?
It is. So that's it for the.
That was Bob Uecker, wasn't it? That he was saying that.
Yeah, Bob Uecker says that. So I guess, and pun intended, I am going to switch up and no more softballs, no more lob pitches for you guys. That one was way too easy. I should have gone with my first selection.
Well, you know what? It's not too. You can do two. It's kind of our show. It's our party. We can cry if we want to.
All right. Well, that sounds like a challenge.
Oh,
so, hang on a second.
I figure the worst I can do is be batting at 500, and since we just had a baseball movie, I know 500 is pretty solid in anything, and so yeah, I'm up for the challenge of batting 500.
All right, so then, gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Oh my God, I know. I've seen the movie. No, it is War Games. Yeah. Shit, that was oh man, who's that fat actor that does that? He was the general. You can't fight in here.
Oh, come on now, you're
That's not it.
You're close, but come on.
Did I
name the fat actor who's the general is close, but you got the movie wrong.
I got the movie wrong?
It's not War Games.
You kinky little devil.
That wasn't Jackie Gleason.
It's an older movie. It had Peter Sellers in it, and it's a classic.
Oh, you know what? You're going back to your Bond movies, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
It's not a Bond movie?
I have no clue, so I'm cool with 500. Jason, it's on you.
I would have to say, just thinking back, it's a black and white movie.
It is a black and white movie.
Oh, that makes it easier for me.
Dr. Strangelove.
And I'll give you one more hint. When it came out, Dave wasn't born.
It's Dr. Strangelove.
Nice! He scores from way outside the line.
I don't know.
How did you get that? Is Evan looking stuff up for you?
Yeah, I'm like, hey, just start searching over there real quick as I'm saying stuff. Just start.
What year was the movie?
1964, Doctor Strangelove. Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just a toddler back then.
There's a toddler.
It was one of Stanley Kubrick's movies, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It's one of my favorite kind of psycho movies. So all right, so you guys got some game. I'm gonna start coming up with some.
Jason's got.
You know what?
Yeah. He's got some pseudo skills, man. That's just ridiculous. Don't ever play 80s music with the guy either. He's ridiculous.
Was it
That was amazing.
Was it George C. Scott that gave the line?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Or because I know Peter Sellers was in that too, but that doesn't sound
Peter
like.
Sellers was the president, and George C. Scott was the general, and I thought Peter Sellers gave the line, but I'm going to go with you. It was the fat general guy.
Mm.
Very good, very good. Dave, next week for you, we'll do like a quote from a chick flick or something.
Hey, there you go.
What?
Hey, can we do like
He's having a big.
dancing or something? Nobody leaves baby in the corner.
Wow.
Listen, my kids can get that one.
What movie is that again?
Okay.
So do we want to jump into the topic, or do we want to?
Well, yeah. Well, if you, whatever we're gonna do, if we're gonna jump into the topic, you guys are gonna have to give me a second because I'm getting a text message here right now, and I really need to respond to this. So, could you guys just kind of hang out for a second, and I'll be right. I'll be right there. You guys go ahead and talk or something while I do this.
It's probably our #1 fan.
What do you think? Yeah. I'm sorry. Did you say something? I'm looking at my phone. Oh, that was kind of rude, wasn't it? We're on the air, and I'm looking at my phone.
Oh, nice work there. Well,
You
well
like
played.
that? That was a nice segue,
Well
wasn't
played.
it?
Well played.
You should be in Hollywood. You should be acting.
I was in the Burger King restaurant the other day, and I was watching this girl pull out of the drive-thru. She stopped right in the middle of the drive-thru so that she could finish up a text message. There were people behind her blowing the horn and everything else. And so, you know, I kind of wonder, are people today just really ignorant to technology, and is there a set of rules or anything for technology, what's right and what's not as far as the use of our cell phones and things like that? What do you guys think?
I think it's a combination of things. I think, #1, this technology is fairly new to the masses. I mean, we've had cell phones around for a while. Text messaging is even more new. And I don't think anybody really stopped to think about it. Next thing you knew, we were kind of in the middle of this new technology. And I think it's reached a point, though, that a lot of these questions do have to be addressed because, I don't know, a lot of it seems like common sense to me. And we've talked about this, and I've heard a million times, the problem with common sense is it's just not very common. But we've talked about countless instances, situations where, I don't know, I figure if you took a poll that most people would think certain things were rude, or, you know, and I don't know if people are just absolutely oblivious to it, that they're just so caught up in the middle of what they're doing that nothing else matters, or they just don't care. But I think that's kind of how this topic came all about, because we've had a little bit of conversation about it in different situations and what have you. And I, for one, I think I get annoyed as much as anybody, if not more than anybody, when it comes to these type of things and these situations, because for me personally, I just cannot believe that people conduct themselves in the way they do. And in my opinion, a lot of it seems very, very selfish.
It seems, I don't know, when what you were just talking about and everything, that seemed very general. It didn't seem like it was based around phones. It was just people in general.
Well, I was kind of talking in generalities, but it really has to do with cell phones. And I mean, I can give you some specific examples and instances, but, you know, I know when I've been out with friends and what have you, where maybe a friend just all night just cannot put his phone down. And at some point, you know, I've always tolerated, you know, a phone call here, somebody's got to return a text message, maybe you're something to do at home or that kind of thing. But it reaches a point where I just get really annoyed. I feel like it's not very important to them. They've got a different agenda, and sometimes I wonder why they even bothered coming out, why we're even hanging out. You know, if you're just going to spend all night on your phone texting and screwing around, you know, why would we spend the time and make the effort to go out to a public establishment if that's the way you're going to conduct yourself? And that's just one example. I got many, many, many of those, and that's what I'm saying. I'm curious if people are just oblivious. It doesn't matter if they know it's kind of selfish and they're okay with it, or if it's something different. And I know this technology has come on us pretty quick, and you know, we've probably all been guilty of some of this at one point or another. But I know I've stepped back and I've thought of it, so I'm a lot more conscious when I'm doing that type of thing, or depending on people I'm with. I mean, I've been on a few dates and that type of thing, and I consciously thinking I need to refrain from this. I'm not going to pick the phone up. You know, there's nothing that's that important that I have to respond or attend to this right now. If I get a moment, or somebody goes to the bathroom or excuses himself and I have a moment by myself, I might take a look. But those are just kind of some of the thoughts that I have about that.
Well, I think it's pretty fair to say that in general people are just, I don't want to use the term selfish, but people in general just seems like they've kind of gotten a lot more concerned about what's going on in their life, and maybe they are oblivious to what goes on around them. I think technology, specifically the cell phone, but we could talk about other things. I think tonight we're going to kind of go with the cell phone route. It certainly has caused a distraction for people. And it's certainly a big enough distraction that you know, we've got anti-texting laws while you're driving. I mean, I've had people yell at me in the grocery store. Maybe not yell at me, but criticize me in the grocery store because I was talking on the phone while I was walking around shopping. And we've become a multitasking society. I feel like if I'm not multitasking, something's wrong. And occasionally it's a corny line that, you know, you got to stop and smell the roses type of thing. But I'm going to argue the other side of the coin just a little bit on this one, because I agree. I kind of agree with Dave about, you know, you're out with buddies or whatever and you're hanging out and being on the phone. Okay, that to me is just rude. If you don't want to be there, don't be there. You know, or if you're going to hang out, you're going to hang out. But that part is rude. But you know, if you want to walk around the store and talk on your phone, what's the difference between you talking on your phone or having somebody with you and you talking with them? Really, to me, that's no difference. Now, if you're in people's way and you're not moving around and you're kind of just being obnoxious on the phone, yeah, I could see how people get upset. Still, they don't have the right. I mean, I shouldn't say they don't have the right. They don't have the right to tell you what to do.
See, I talk on my phone all the time. I wear a Bluetooth whether I'm in the store. Those are the times, especially when I'm by myself, I think it's a good opportunity to take advantage of that time and return some phone calls and catch up and that type of thing. And I've never had an issue with it. Now, hopefully I don't offend John here, but I think for him, and I think he's aware of this too, because I've been with him in other public settings.
I think I'm about to be offended.
But John, just by his nature, he speaks loud. And I will never forget the time. It was probably a couple, 3 years ago. We were actually sitting in an In-N-Out Burger having lunch. John and I are having a conversation. Now, he's a little loud, but I guess, you know, my buddy, we talk all the time. I'm just used to the volume being up. About 20 minutes into this, we had somebody from another, like 2 tables over, come over and ask or request. They said, John, could you please be quieter? They said, we cannot even hear ourselves talk. And somebody else turns around at that point and says, yeah, just like that, like that kind of deal. And
These are
think John
lies.
asked me at that point. He said, "Am I really that loud?" And I was like, "Dude, you kind of are." I mean, and he obviously doesn't do it intentionally. He's one of the nicest guys I know. I can't imagine him ever going out of his way to offend people. But I think that's a little different deal there. He's just loud by nature. On contrast, I know people that are the complete opposite, that I struggle to make out every other word. So I think I'd rather have the loud, at least I can understand them.
All lies about me spread, vicious lies spread by my competitors. I am very loud when I speak. In fact, my wife just came upstairs like right before we started tonight, because she has company coming over this evening to visit her to downstairs, and she's like, "You're not going to be that loud or talk like that, are you? Do I need to close the door?" And I'm thinking, well, next week we're going to have my office lead lined and the door soundproof, because there's probably people up the street that can hear me right now.
Well, here's a true story. We've traveled. John and I have traveled together. We're in the same kind of business, and there were times through our careers that we actually worked kind of side by side, and we may be traveling the same town or what have you. If John got a phone call and I got a phone call, I would have to tell whoever I was talking to, if they could hear me, that I'd call them back. If he was on the phone, I would not take a call. And if I was on the phone and he got a call, I'd usually say, "Hey, let me call you back in a few," because I knew in a matter of moments that I wouldn't be able to hear any part of the conversation. So.
Wow. So
anyway.
So for everybody out there,
that's not a shot on you. It's just
for everybody out there, we have a programming note. Programming note for next week's show. Our lead-off topic will be 5 most embarrassing moments in Dave's life.
Well, that'll be fun. Just 5, because I've got tons.
Well, you remember what happened when we tried to go past 5?
Yeah.
Ran on.
Well, and honestly, there's some of them that could all be lumped into one. I mean, I have 5 embarrassing moments that all happen in moments of each other. So,
Jason, you mentioned earlier when you were commenting, you said that people walking around talking on their cell phones, and so I one of the things I like to do a lot is play devil's advocate, and I'm going to do that a little bit tonight, because I think in this case we probably all agree on this topic a little bit. But you made a comment. You said that it's no different talking to someone on your cell phone than it is talking to someone standing next to you while you're pushing your shopping cart around. So tell me that, because I don't know that everyone would agree with you.
Well, people. I mean, I'm sure there would people that won't agree with me. But you know, to me, if you're talking in the same voice that you would be talking to somebody standing next to you, what's the difference? Because they can't hear both sides of the conversation, they might get upset. They can only hear one side.
Maybe you got a point there. They feel like, hey, wait a minute, I'm getting ripped off here.
Yeah, I'm only hearing half the conversation.
I totally agree with you. Unless you're being loud, obnoxious, or doing something else, I don't know why that would be a problem. People, there's obviously places that we talk, and whether it's on a phone or not on a phone, and there's other places that we're quiet. I mean, the movies are a good example. I mean, I think we've all learned that when a movie's playing, you're not on your phone, you're not visiting with your buddy. I mean, those things would just be considered rude and frowned upon. Like thanks, Bin Laden. But honestly, I think a lot of it really is common sense, and I think the biggest thing is you just kind of got to sit back sometimes and ask yourself, and that's where I think that I feel like people are maybe just oblivious to it, where this technology came so quick before we knew what we were doing. We're texting, we're talking, we're multitasking, we're doing all these things. I know families that things got way out of hand before somebody finally said, you know what? No cell phones at the table. None of this. They had to throttle back. I think they were in the middle of it before they even realized what happened. And then at some point they said, hey, you know what? We need some quiet time. We need some time that we just visit. We don't, the cell phones and all this kind of stuff, we don't need them all the time. And we've talked about this. We're all probably guilty of it to some degree. I mean, it's hard not to. We've almost been programmed, you know, and you know, at some point I think you got to kind of take a look at that and make some personal choices how you want to handle that going forward.
And I think it's funny, you know, because you say how the technology kind of came fast, but you know, there's nothing, no sense in hiding it. You know, I've been doing this stuff way longer than a lot of people, and we were just called nerds back then when we were doing it, but now everybody does it, so now it's cool. But,
don't feel bad. You're still called a nerd.
Yeah, you know, but now it's a badge of honor. In high school, it was a way to get your ass kicked.
But think about it though. You said you've been doing this for years, but the masses weren't doing it.
That's what
it was done,
yeah.
and it was done behind closed doors.
Yeah.
People weren't walking around like zombies, and I mean, I've been out with a group of people, 7, 8 people at a time at a restaurant or having a drink, and there are times you look around and everybody is staring at their phone, and you're like, who are they texting? I thought everybody I knew was here. You know, it's like, come on. And at some point, you know, it's just it seems crazy to me.
Liz and I went to a movie recently. Normally we sit down low, but we sat up higher in the theater because it was pretty crowded. So the lights are still pretty dim in the theater, and you're looking down upon 70% of the theater. And I honestly believe that probably 90+% of the people in the theater had a cell phone up in front of them doing something, and you could tell because you could see these little white spots of light everywhere. Every single person in there had a phone in front of them, and then when the movie theater finally darkened, you could see the little white lights just go off. It was like Christmas tree lights blinking and going off because everybody was shutting off their phone. And you know what? And I was guilty. I'm guilty of it. My wife and I are very guilty of when we go out to dinner. Seems like we sit down, and the first thing we do is pop out our phones, and you know, I'm not even sure what we're doing. Sometimes we're looking for the movie we're going to go watch, or who knows what. But we're just as guilty as anybody else.
I think, you know, I read an article about this too, and I think they said people don't know what it's like to be bored anymore. They've always got a device in their hand that they can just go for entertainment, so they're never bored anymore. And it was talking about how being bored sometimes is good for you. It's good for your mind. It's good for you to kind of be in that bored state. And we don't get in that bored state anymore because we got our phones and we got our entertainment devices. We always have our friends nearby, you know, that kind of thing. I just think it's kind of interesting.
Well, yeah, our senses are constantly being assaulted. I think back to, you know, when Dave said this technology people haven't been doing this for a long time. I agree with them, but it has been quite a long time. I remember a Disneyland trip we took our youngest daughter on. We took them both, but our youngest daughter had her phone, and I think she was probably during the entire trip, every time we were waiting in line or doing something at an attraction, she had her phone texting her friends. You know, she still does that. It's a generation that, and it's my fault, I'm the one who raised her, but it's a generation of this constant, got to inform everybody what they're doing. You know, she got to tell every friend she has, but she's standing in line at this ride or that ride, and you know, I think you're right. We're not bored very often.
See, the phones have been around for long. Shit, I've had a cell phone since 93, 94. I had the big brick phones and all of that. The technology back then was expensive. Not very many people had them. The people that had them, you know, with the exception of probably people that were
drug dealers,
had a lot of money and what have you, I really watched my minutes back then. I think my first plan ever, I got 20, 30, 40 minutes was it. So you really, and we had pagers and stuff back then. We used the pagers more than anything. But at that time, the cell phone was more of kind of emergency use. But as we progressed, the plans started becoming a little more affordable and what have you. It was more for the phone use. But it was strictly a phone at that point. Once the texting got introduced, I think that kind of stepped it up. People started texting, but I think what's really catapulted it forward is the smartphones, the data that we have, the networks too, the 4G and everything now. You have the ability to actually get on the internet, surf, movies, watch clips, stuff like that. A lot of this you really couldn't do very efficiently or effectively even just a couple of short years ago. Today, with where the technology is, the bandwidth and everything, and the fact that I'd challenge any one of us to think of a friend or somebody that does not have some type of cell phone or smartphone, unless it's a financial issue or something like that. Everybody's got them, and kids. Jay, both of your kids have cell phones. How long have they had cell phones, and how old are they?
For a couple of years now.
Okay, and your son?
Had them since they were about 10.
Back a few years ago, we would have thought that was crazy. What in the world does a 10-year-old need a cell phone for?
My oldest daughter got her first phone when she was 8.
8 years old.
But in defense of me, her mother lived in New Mexico and I lived in Arizona, and at 8 years old, my daughter was flying back and forth from New Mexico to Arizona on a plane with her younger sister, and maybe she was 10. And so we got her a cell phone, or at least we used the excuse of this to get her a cell phone, so that because she was going to be on an airplane and in airports and things like that. I'm sure some of it was an excuse.
Yeah, to a degree, but you did see a value in it, and I get that. I think our thinking about all of that is a lot different than it was back then, what it is today. But you're right, we're not bored. We can't sit down. You sit down and watch TV, you're still checking your phone. I just got a clip of the doctors the other day, and they were talking about this very thing. They were talking about cell phones in general, and they had a piece, the particular piece I caught. They were asking, and they also done a poll, but they also did this with the doctors, how many of them take the phone with them when they use the restroom. They all did. Now, some of them were saying, I don't necessarily mess with it the whole time I'm in there, or what have you, but there was all different kinds of reasons why they do it. They said, well, won't be in there for a few minutes, I can catch up on emails and so on and so forth. I think other people were just so addicted to it, but it was an extremely high percentage of people, when they use the restroom, they take their phone in there with them.
I thought everybody, are you kidding me? I thought everybody did that.
Well, see?
I want you to think about the next time I send you an email, there's a really good chance where I might be sitting when I send you that email.
I don't care where it comes from. As long as none of that the technology hasn't reached a point where any of that matter can move across the phone line, so I'm okay.
Here's a little interesting thing to tie both cell phones and bathrooms together. More people have cell phones than actually have bathrooms in their houses. Yeah, more people own cell phones than have bathrooms.
Well, so you mean like a family of 5, there might be 5 cell phones and 2 or 3 bathrooms?
No. We'll count that as one bathroom, or one cell phone, one bathroom.
He's talking that there's people in countries, third world countries, probably that own cell phones but don't have bathrooms.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, with the infrastructure and stuff like that, that's easy to see. You can put some cell phone towers up, and now they start finding a way to get phones. They don't have to build a few towers is probably much more feasible than putting in plumbing and electrical and everything else. I guess that makes a lot of sense.
There's probably some of those people, though, that would prefer to have a cell phone than a bathroom.
Yeah, well, most people would rather pay their cell phone bill over paying their mortgage.
Yeah, that was a true stat that's actually been around for several years.
In the old days, your cell phone bill was higher than your mortgage.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably in a lot of cases. So
I was looking at a bill that I got when I was back in '92. I was in the Navy. I was traveling overseas, calling home for 1 month to call home. I had a bill of $350 for 1 month.
And how much time did you speak on the phone?
Probably 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I used to back when I was traveling. my first sales job, I used to I would call home from a hotel. So think about this rhetorical question: when's the last time you made a phone call from a hotel on the hotel phone? I used to call home, and sometimes I would call and let the phone ring, or my wife would answer it, and then she would call me back at the hotel because it was cheaper to make the call from our home phone than it was from the hotel phone.
Yeah.
And now, when I'm traveling or anything else, I call and speak to my wife. I don't even call our house anymore. I call her cell phone. We talk for hours. Dave and I will. There's many times where if we're both traveling on the road, I might have a 3-hour drive ahead of me, and there have been times when I've talked for 3 straight hours on the phone. Whereas before I wouldn't have even talked. I mean, I used to call home and talk for 5 minutes, worrying about how much the call was going to be.
I did too. I think about that when I started. We really tried to watch ourselves with the expense or using the phone out of a hotel because it was very expensive. The hotel was taking a cut, and it was like rolling the dice. You had no idea what exactly you were going to pay. Just depending on the hotel and how bad they wanted to ding you. But I used to call like my first night out, keep it short, and usually check in once or twice through the week, and then that was it. Then it's like I'll see you Friday kind of deal, and we eventually, I think we moved on. At some point, we started using calling cards, which was a little more cost effective, and we did that for a number of years too. God, I wish we would have had cell phones when I started the job. I mean, this has been in that respect, it's been really nice. It's a nice way to keep in touch with your family and friends and that type of thing, because before you hit the road, you might as well have been going to another country because you were really out of touch, with the exception of a couple of phone calls here and there until you returned home.
So where do you think we're going with this?
You'd be a little more specific as to.
I mean that I think it's obvious that it's an issue. A lot of people are talking about it, and I'm going to bring up another related area to this in a while. But before I get to that, I mean, it's obviously it's an issue. People are constantly, I think I saw a thing on Facebook. It was a video called "Look Up," and it was about trying to get people to understand you need to look up from your phone once in a while. It's certainly an issue. People are getting very divided over it, about whether or not, is it invasive? You mentioned earlier that only hearing one half of the conversation, maybe that's what upsets people. I think it does. I think some people do get upset because they can only hear one half of the conversation, and it's irritating. You've got this constant flood of information, the distractions while you're driving, while you're doing anything. And I don't see it getting any better. I don't see technology backing off. So what's going to happen? Where are we going with this? Is it going to get worse? Is it going to stay the same?
It's an interesting thought. I think it'll get worse before it gets better. I don't see it getting any better anytime soon. I think you're going to see more and more laws about where you can use your phones, and especially the car thing. At some point, ultimately, I think that unless you're hands-free, every state will outlaw them. It's just statistically proven that texting and talking on your phones is just very dangerous, and we're just distracted. It's distracted driving, and even looking away from your phone for a few seconds. I do it all the time. I feel like I'm a professional texter in the car. I don't stare at my phone, but I've been doing it for years, and I've become very proficient at it. But it's still dangerous. We shouldn't be doing it. You're moving a 2,000-pound vehicle down the road at 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, taking your eyes off the road for a few seconds. There's a lot that can happen in that short period of time. So I think that's going to be a big thing. The other thing is just going to be socially and how we do this, and I think if we don't make a change, or we don't come up with something, that we're all going to turn into zombies. It's not going to get any better. I hate it. It drives me crazy. I really force myself in certain situations now to leave my phone in the car or leave it behind, because it's so tough. If you have your phone, how many times does it ring? Does it ding? Do you get an email, a text, some kind of alert coming through? And it is very difficult to have self-restraint to just let it go. Say, you know what, I'll just check in a few, where our curiosity gets the best of us, so it's hard. We're just constantly touching the phone. So either turn that stuff, or I really don't know. That's an interesting question, but I don't see it getting any better anytime soon.
Well, let's talk about the other side of it, where let's say I don't want to be contacted right now. I want to be left alone. People are under this impression that if I'm going to call you on your cell phone and you could hear it ringing, you should be answering it. Or if I send you a text message and you got it, you need to respond to me. That kind of thing. And there are times when I don't want to talk on the phone. I don't want to send a message back. Or maybe I got to think about it before I send a message back. That kind of thing.
That's actually a great topic right there, because it has actually come up on a few occasions. Actually, I know people that don't talk to each other anymore, that their friendships have actually been severed for that very thing. And I will not name this friend of mine. Well, and I don't even know if I'd call him a friend anymore. I haven't spoke to him in some time.
He's a jerk.
But he felt, in his opinion, he felt as a friend there should be some kind of time frame to respond to a text message. And we were trying, and he was like, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. He goes, I know you have your phone. And he said this in general. And he felt like if we're friends, unless there's some extenuating circumstances where you cannot respond to me, you should respond to me in 10 minutes. That's how he felt. And wow. That was a big issue, you know. A lot of people say, you know what, sometimes I don't hear it. I don't always have my phone with me, or sometimes I don't even feel like looking at it. We had a couple of conversations about that, because he had sent me messages, and sometimes they were just nonsensical. We all send just kind of silly messages sometimes. And he sent me a couple silly messages when I was golfing. And I saw it, and I was like, oh, okay, well, you know, I'll get back to him later. Well, this was kind of the beginning of the end of our friendship. Over the next several days, I tried to get in touch with him, and he ignored me. I finally, after weeks and months of trying to get to the bottom of it, he said that he felt that I didn't value his friendship, and that wasn't important, because when I'm doing something else, I don't respond to him. And I said, well, there are a couple of silly messages, and and you know, that's the other thing. If somebody sends me a silly message or a joke, you know, I may laugh, I might respond, I might not respond, I might not do anything. But he was one that felt like you should respond to him. And this just raised a lot of interesting thoughts. There's a couple other friends that kind of got involved in that too, that didn't like the whole idea and said, you know what, I'm done. I don't care. It's not that important to me, and if you feel that way, I mean, maybe we should part ways.
I get constant grief from my children all the time about, you know, if I don't respond quickly, you know, they'll call me, and you know, and then like a minute later they'll call, and they'll keep calling and keep calling, and and unfortunately, like in their case, they honestly believe, like what Jason was saying, that well, you have a phone, and it should be with you all the time, and you know, when I call you, you should answer. And I think I think that kind of hits what we're talking about a little bit, is why do they feel that way? Why do they feel like whatever it is they want to say to me is more important than whatever I'm doing right now, and they don't even know what I'm doing. And I wonder sometimes if, and this is probably a topic for another time, but I wonder if I was standing there talking to one of you, if they would just walk right up and interrupt the conversation and want to talk about what they want to talk about because they think that's more important. If they do that in person as much as they would interrupt me via their electronics.
I had a friend that stopped by unannounced, and I don't even know who does that anymore with all the technology and everything we've got, unless you were neighbors or super close friends or something. And he knew I was here, and I never got up to answer the door because I didn't feel like it. And we had a conversation about that. He thought that was pretty rude, and I thought it was pretty rude. He just showed up, and not even so much he just showed up. I thought it was more rude that he just showed up, and he expected me to answer the door.
Dave, so, I think somebody's at your door.
No, I think I'm being distracted. So we had that conversation, and I told him the same thing. I said, hey, look, just because you show up here, especially unannounced, doesn't mean I have to answer the door. I said, maybe I just wanted to be left alone, or maybe I had company, or who knows, any other reason. Bottom line, I didn't want to talk to you right now. And it's interesting how different people think about these situations, what the protocol is, and what's right and what's wrong. I'm under the belief or the feeling that, if you don't want to be interrupted or you want to be left alone, that's the bottom line. I mean, I would be respectful of anybody else like that. I'd probably never show up unannounced to somebody's home anymore. And if I did show up and they weren't interested in visiting or hanging out, my feelings wouldn't be hurt. I'd totally respect that. And I don't know if it's just a different way of thinking, but that's me personally.
There's no reason with a cell phone that you should ever be unannounced. Unless you can surprise them.
I think very few reasons, really. I mean, I would never show up at your house first of all, John, you live a couple hours away from me, but I'd just never drive to Tucson, or even if I was in town, I wouldn't swing by. I wouldn't do it for a lot of reasons. One, I don't know if you have plans. I don't know if you're home. I don't know if you got something else going on. And it's just way too easy to get in touch with you by text or email or phone and set something up and avoid all that. I mean, we're not living in the Wild Wild West anymore, right?
So as devil's advocate, then is that where we're getting? Is this where we're getting to as a society, that we are so detached? We value our privacy, or whatever you want to call it, to the point now where we don't even want people to come by and see us, and we're going to get upset if someone comes by to visit us without first announcing that they're coming over.
Yeah, I think to some degree with the last little bit you added on there, I love having my friends over and company over, but I would much rather them, especially the day. I mean, we're all busier. We all got things going on. I'm not home half the time. I'm not just going to drive by people's houses. I know everybody's working, got stuff going on. I think it's just too easy to get in touch with one another or set something up, or hey, I'm in the area, you mind if I swing by, kind of thing. I think in that respect, it's more respectful. It's just I think it's a common sense thing there. I mean, what if you have company, or what if you have something else going on, or whatever the case may be? To me, it makes a lot more sense. We live in a completely different era today with the technology and everything of today than we did even 50, 100 years ago. It's a different world, no doubt.
Well, I think if it works kind of both ways. If you do come over unannounced, don't expect the door to be answered. If you're going to come over and be unannounced, now it's up to me whether I'm going to answer the phone. Even if you can see me sitting on the couch inside my house, nothing says I have to answer the door.
Well, and that's never changed. It's always been that way.
But I think people take more offense to it today. That's a conversation I had. I say, hey, no hard feelings. I mean, I just didn't want to see you today. You know what? And if somebody didn't want to see me, my feelings aren't going to be hurt. I mean, I am a pretty likable guy, but
I hardly ever answer my door. I'm guilty of it.
When's the last time, other than maybe your brother or somebody like that? When's the last time somebody that you know just stopped by your house unannounced?
It happens. It not recently. Yeah, it happened, but I wasn't ready to see somebody. So, and this has nothing to do with technology or anything like that. I didn't want to see that person because, for personal reasons. I wasn't dressed. Okay, it was one of those things. I don't want company right now. I didn't answer the door.
Were you doing funny business?
Were you having me time?
Easy there, Tiger. No, I just, it was in the morning. I think I'd barely gotten up, and so I didn't answer the door. But I wouldn't have answered the door anyway. And I guess if that person had called me before they came over, I probably would have said, "Hey, don't. Now's not a good time," or something. I mean, I get it, but I wouldn't. I wasn't mad at them for showing up. I just didn't answer the door.
Okay, I wouldn't necessarily be mad either. I don't think it's very practical anymore. I wouldn't be upset. Just don't be, and that's what happened here. I wasn't upset he stopped by. I said, yeah, so-and-so's at the door. You going to answer it? No?
Yeah.
And, that's kind of my take on it. And that's exactly why I wouldn't show up at anybody's house, because it's way too easy to call or get in touch or send a message or do something like that and avoid all of that. I mean, unless it's my neighbor that lives right next door and we're buddies and we go back and forth, maybe that's a little different situation. But a buddy of mine that lives 20, 30 minutes away, I just don't see it being very practical today. It's not.
I think it was just as easy before technology to call up where you went over to visit somebody, but I think with this flood of information, the expectation has turned into that. Don't come over unannounced. Send me a text. Send me an email. Whatever it is. I think on a broader topic, unfortunately, we've kind of depersonalized, our relationships with other people by doing some of this.
No, I think if I had friends, I wouldn't mind if they stopped by every once in a while. But it's the whole point of expecting me to be there because you're here. You know what I mean? There shouldn't be any expectation on your side. If you stop by my house unannounced, you may or may not get somebody answering the door for you.
And you talk about not having friends and this and that. We talk every day to some degree. It might be 10 minutes. It might be 10 hours. More often than not, we speak for an hour or two on the phone. It's pretty common. We also live a lot of miles apart too.
I read an interesting article. I wanted to bring this up sooner, but we're kind of running out of time. But I'm going to bring it up anyway. I want to hear what your guys' opinions are, and without starting an hour. We could probably talk about this for an hour or two, but read an interesting article about cell phone uses and what seems to be the next big frontier for a decision on what to do with cell phones. This was a survey done by Costco, so I couldn't tell you if they surveyed their members, where they got the information, what it was, but the question was asked: should cell phones be allowed to be used on airplanes in flight? Jason, what do you think?
I personally, I say no. You're especially in coach class, you're too confined, you're too close to people. It's too easy to have that guy, the rude guy that you can hear 15 rows away, just talking on his phone to somebody.
Hey, you can say his name. He's right there.
But he's obviously not talking about me because I don't fly coach.
Yeah, because you don't fly anymore, you mean.
Everybody talks about like how a baby crying on a plane is bad. That's like the worst case scenario. I think the worst case scenario is to listen some jerk off talk about something just totally out, just not appropriate for the plane for 3 hours.
I don't even know if it's an appropriate thing. I'm going to agree with Jason.
It doesn't matter if it's appropriate or not. It's just listening to somebody drone on for 3 hours, just talking obnoxious, whatever. You're going to get those type of people. You're gonna get the people who talk quiet and like, yeah, hey, I'm on a flight, hey, that kind of thing. But you're gonna get people that are loud and obnoxious. That's just the way it is.
So I don't even know that you have to be that loud and obnoxious. Just picture this: you're on a plane. How many? 37 something with 150 people on it or something like that.
So that's a small plane.
Yeah, I said a 37 or something. Yeah, you get on one of the bigger planes, the 777s, the 47s. Let's say a third of the people are on their phones. You're in a tube in the sky. You got nowhere to go to get away from it. I think it would just be absolutely nerve-wracking. And I just don't see. You know what? Maybe texting and that kind of thing. But I can see where in my opinion, I could see where the phone conversations on a plane would really wear on people's nerves. I've had people just having conversations on the plane before that got after me, but you just think of I could think of 1,000 scenarios of people, gals talking to their girlfriends, guys talking about business, this and that. Like Jason said, maybe you got the loud and obnoxious, but just the collaboration of all of this going on in a plane when you're stuck up there for 2, 3, 4 hours or longer, I think it would be bad news. I think, that was why the phones in the planes were okay back in the day, because it was so expensive that the only time somebody was going to do that if it was absolutely necessary, and they're going to keep it as short as possible. If you have your cell phone and you have unlimited minutes, that's not going. People are going to talk on their phones from takeoff to touchdown. And I tell you what, I'd be absolutely against it. There's enough distractions and noise as it is. I think it'd just make you crazy.
So, question for you guys: what do you think the readers surveyed said, percentage-wise, yes versus no?
Just throwing it out there with just spitballing here. I would say yes, and I think I'd even be guessing high. Maybe I'm not. I'd say around 20%.
Dark Nerd?
I think it's gonna be higher than that. I think it's gonna be more around 40 to 50, 40, maybe even 60% to say yes.
79% said yes, they should be allowed to use their cell phones on a plane.
Wow.
Because people are stupid.
Now, are you talking in flight the whole way?
What's that?
Now you're talking in flight the entire length.
I'm talking in flight. I'm talking being allowed to use your phone to talk on it, text on it, watch whatever you want to do, but to be able to talk on it.
Yeah. I think if it happens, we're going to regret it. I think it's going to absolutely be miserable. Everybody's going to do it. If you have the ability to do it, everybody's going to do it. I mean, we're bored to death up there. People read, watch movies, do whatever they can to pass the time. They can be on the phone. It's going to be people talking back home and the laughing and the cackling and everything else. You think the babies were annoying. Wait till you open up that can of worms.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if any of the airlines decide who decides to step out and do this first. So
I bet you we have Vincent if and when that does happen. If I don't know how likely this is, you're talking about it, but if it does come down to it, I would be willing to bet that we're going to have some kind of incidents up in the air. People are going to get aggravated,
Fights.
Frustrated. I guarantee you there's going to be some issues.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, final words on our topic today?
I think that's just about it. I mean, I carry my cell phone around. I can't be without it. But there are times when at home I leave it up in my office and things like that. And I know that people have called me and say, "Hey, why didn't you answer my phone?" I'm like, "Well, I didn't have it on me. I'm watching TV or something." That's one thing. When I'm watching TV, I'm never going to answer my phone. I'm preoccupied or watching a movie with my kids and stuff like that. I'm not answering my phone. I'm watching a movie. There's nothing really that important that's going to wait unless somebody's going to call me and tell me somebody died. But then, they're not going to die twice.
Right. Yeah. Dave, what's your final thoughts on all this?
No, I think I just echo that. I could carry on more and more. I've got so many stories about the cell phones and the rules that we had when we had people living in the house and the things that we did to limit that and the issues and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think there's going to have to be a thing that where we as a society are just going to have to be more responsible. And maybe as time goes on and maybe some of this etiquette will be more prevalent. I don't know if that'll be the case or not, but maybe we reach a point where we do define some standards and that kind of thing. But for right now, I think it's just totally out of control, and I just don't see that situation getting any better anytime soon.
All right.
Good stuff, guys. Hey, did we make sports picks last week?
Yeah, we did. Let's go over those real quick.
Where we at?
Well, we're definitely going to have, at the end of this, John Fisher's ironclad pick of the week because he was awesome last week with his picks. So in the NBA stuff, we picked Portland to win. Obviously, that did not happen. Portland.
Yeah, in fairness, and I'm not going back, but I never believed it to be true. There's just no way in the world I'm ever picking against my team, especially as much as I hate San Antonio.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that one, but we all picked Portland on that one, and we were all losers. So.
Well, I appreciate you guys' support on that, and I got to have somebody that believes.
Yeah. So the next game was the Clippers OKC. John, you're the only one that got it right with the OKC pick. So see, that's what it takes there.
See, this just goes to prove you need to know nothing about sports to be good at picking them.
That is exactly what it's saying. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Washington, Indiana. Again, John picks Indiana out of nowhere, and he wins. He hits that one out of the park, and then and then on the last one we all picked Miami. So I mean that's a no-brainer. I think those guys are gonna be holding the trophy here in a few weeks.
I hope not, but you're probably right.
I hope not either, but that's one that I hope I'm wrong on. But so we go on. We move on to hockey. We all picked Chicago to win, and Chicago did. Chicago win. They're on to the the conference finals. So the next one was Anaheim LA Kings. I picked the Kings to win, and I got that one right. So I was 2 for 2 on that as far as those two picks go. You guys both pick Anaheim, and they're losers. So the next one was Boston Montreal. I would never in a million years thought that Montreal was going to pull it off, and Montreal did.
Did anybody pick Montreal?
John is the only one that picked Montreal.
Way to go! Yes. Way to go, John!
Yes. So
www.johnssportspicks.com.
We're gonna have the ironclad pick of the week after this one here.
So don't screw it up.
Yeah, we had Pittsburgh, New York Rangers. I picked Pitts. You picked Pitts. Dave picked Pitts. We were hoping we were wrong, and we were wrong. New York Rangers won that one out.
That was kind of like, that was
one where I was like, I think they're going to win, and I hope I'm wrong. I'm glad I'm wrong on that one because I hate the Penguins so much. But, yes.
Well, I'm not going to Vegas anytime soon to bet unless John's going with me.
He was 6 for 8 this week.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. You could be making money.
I came in second with 3 out of 8, and you came in third with 2 out of 8.
Solid.
So now we're going to this week's stuff. We're gonna go with the basketball here. Let me get my trusty paper and pencil out here. Let's see, Dave, Sean.
Mr. High tech with paper and pencil. Gosh.
I still go with it. It works. It's technology that works. Yeah. Okay, we got OKC San Antonio. OKC San Antonio. This is actually a really tough
San Antonio is going to win it, but I'm taking OKC because I hate San Antonio. So I'm picking with my emotions.
All right. How about you, John?
I'm going to go with San Antonio.
Yeah, good pick. That's another one for you.
I'm definitely going with San Antonio. I think that they're going to. They've been playing to be.
They killed OKC the other night too. They're just too much. They finished the season really strong.
Yeah.
I can see the final San Antonio Miami.
They're actually winning right now. So, but that's not why I picked them. I just think that they'll. I think they're.
I agree. I just hate them so much that I can't pick them.
All right, now we've got.
If there was money on the line, I'd probably pick differently.
Miami Pacers.
The Pacers won the first game, didn't they?
We'll go with John.
You know what? I'm really torn on this one. I'm obviously not the expert. I'm going to probably regret this because I'm starting to think that maybe Indiana is going to pull one out, but I'm going to go with Miami.
I'm going to take Indiana.
Indiana.
Because I believe in miracles.
I'm going with Miami as I chest pump myself twice.
I'm going to go with Indiana just because I'm very hopeful that they win. I want them to win. I want Miami to be out. I don't think
we should have two sets of picks. Maybe we should have what we want to win and what we believe.
No, this is good. This is just like the football guys do it. Somebody's taking the safe route.
But
that's me, and you guys are going for the long shot.
Yeah, but they usually do it with a little bit more than emotion. There's some kind of tangible thing or intangible thing that they, for whatever reason, they believe somebody's going to do something. They got something to back up their some kind of logic. We have none.
Our logic is we don't like them.
Right. Nanny, boo boo, and I don't like the colors of your uniforms.
Hey, it worked for me picking against Boston.
All right, let's see how you do in hockey here. Chicago, LA.
Chicago.
You guys are going to Chicago on both this, huh?
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
I am going for Chicago as well because I would like to see the Kings out. Even though it's funny, back in the late 80s, early 90s, Kings were my team, but something changed about that team, and now I can't stand them. I can't stand them anymore. Montreal Rangers.
Rangers.
Oh man, I don't think none of us are going to have different things.
Okay, you pick a Canadian team.
No, I don't want the Canadians to win. The Rangers are actually leading that series 2-0. Chicago's leading the Western Series 1-0, and they're actually winning right now 2-1 at end of the second. So. Yeah, so I don't know. I want the Rangers to win. I don't want the Rangers to win the cup. I just want them to win the East. That's it. I'm kind of hoping that Chicago wins the cup again, but
And I got to be honest, I don't really give a damn, but
yeah, you do.
But whatever, we're picking what we're picking.
By the next time we get together, will we have some results? Will things have progressed?
I believe so. Let me see here. Let me look at.
Well, it depends because we're in games 2s and 3s. It could be. I mean, they could be over and.
It could possibly be, and it could be that we have to wait a couple days on the end of that one. But even still, we'll have a. We'll have something going on next week. If we don't have the picks, I'll have something else set up for us to do on our sports talk. So which one of these picks is your ironclad pick of the week, John?
John's ironclad pick of the week.
Miami in the NBA.
All right.
Oh, he goes with the softball.
Circling it. I'm circling it.
Softball.
No, the softball would have been picking Chicago in hockey.
Whatever. Yeah, you know nothing about hockey.
That's that thing. It's on ice. They skate around. Black thing.
They hit that little stake thingy around.
Yeah, it's just ding dong.
I put it down there. I put ICP down there. It doesn't stand for Insane Clown Posse. It stands for Ironclad Pick. So.
Insane Clown Posse. I miss those guys. Yeah, there's no cream filling inside the puck, John. John's always trying to eat the puck.
So So, Dave, what are you going to fascinate us with? Get us with this week for your word of the week?
For my word of the week.
Yeah, that's the only thing you had on your plate. Now you got to go score one. That's your only job.
Back up. I had so many of them, I couldn't decide which one.
Oh, programming note again.
Oh man.
I asked you both this today. Let me just ask you a bit of trivia.
Trivia.
How long was the 100-Year War?
Oh, I already know the answer because.
And part 2.
Yeah.
Who was involved in the 100-Year War?
I could tell you both of them. It was English and the French. It was 116 years.
And what were they fighting over?
English Channel.
English Channel. Okay, you need to go back.
I'll go with the English and the French in 116 years also, but.
And you got to work on Google. Google it.
I don't know. Let me see here.
Keep Googling it right now.
Yeah, because that was wrong.
Reverse your. I want a screenshot. I want to see your screen right now.
Who, mine?
Well, we're gonna be looking forward next week to Dave's word of the week. Last week, you're gonna have to go easier on us, Dave. I mean, that word you used last week was. I think you need to stick with words that are in the English language and.
They are all in the English language.
High school education or less, I think.
So what was the war about? What did you say the war was about?
I asked you what the war was about. They were fighting over something.
I said the English Channel. I don't know.
It wasn't the English Channel. Come on.
They were fighting over the French Revolution or something, that French monarchy, something like that.
I don't know.
You got it right there in front of you, Jay.
I'm on the Wikipedia page. There's just too much stuff here.
His computer's slowing down. He can't get the info up fast enough.
Well, maybe you shouldn't look at Wikipedia.
I don't know. Well, where else do you look?
Let your kids stay up later next time so they can be doing
It was over the French throne.
Oh.
Well, that's kind of what I said.
No, I thought you said the porcelain throne.
Gosh. And with that, Dave, any parting words before we sign off?
No, just I think we're a little bit better on track. It was nice. It was a little mild. I'd have liked a little bit more, interaction, and maybe I honestly thought that this topic would incite a little bit more.
You saying this show was boring?
Yeah, a little bit. I think there was some good information. I think we all made some good points. A lot of it mirrored each other and what we were thinking. I thought we'd have a little bit better debate on it and some different viewpoints and what have you. Overall, it was good though. Some good stuff to think about. I think it's stuff I think about often, and that's kind of why I chose this and why it kind of came up, with me. But I really thought there'd be a little bit more dialogue about it and some different thoughts and feelings and reactions and emotions about it. But all in all, I thought it was good information. I had fun. It'll be a challenge to see what we do next week. But yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. And that's kind of where I'm at. Jason, what do you think?
I think it went well. It was a little. I think we got to work on our diatribes a little bit, and not go too far off on one subject. But no, I think it's good. I mean, I don't know. I think that filling the time is never a problem with us. It's more of just staying on topic and staying on track. But we'll hash those things out.
I think diatribes could be our word for the week next week. I'm going to have to.
I know everybody knows what that means. That's like killing off a bunch of tribes, right?
Yeah, I thought
it's actually putting in color and changing the color of them.
I thought it was when a tribe was all trying to lose weight. They were on a diet tribe.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that. I think maybe you're right.
Well,
now
gang,
that you say that.
We got episode 3 in the bag. We're getting better each time. It's always a pleasure to get together with you in the evening. We got we got the dark nerd who's breaking all physical laws, Jason from the East Coast, and DP who's not getting paid. And you could probably stick with that tagline because it's probably going to be good for the remainder of what we do. I doubt you'll ever get paid. And then of course there's me. I'm John, and I still don't have a tagline. One of these days I'm going to work on that. But for me and all my colleagues and all our loyal listeners out there, we appreciate you joining us, and we'll be back with episode 4 next Wednesday at the usual time.
All right.
Yeah, good job, guys. Thanks for your time.
Feel that you can shift the tide that sticks around like summits in your teeth. Are there some aces up your sleeve?